Now we're live.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for attending. My name is Dave Slusher. This is Live Coding Happy Hour for March 17th, 2017. It's St. Patrick's Day. And welcome, everybody. I'm kind of the prodigal son on this one. I've been gone out of the country for the last few times. But let's welcome our my colleagues. Introduce yourself. Let's start with Chuck.
Hi, I'm Chuck Tomasi, platform architect with ServiceNow. I am part evangelist, part business unit, platform debugger, part everything. It's a whole lot of fun. And when you said prodigal son, I imagined the story where you went off, did something bad, spent all your dad's money, lived with the pigs for a while, and now you're coming home. Or were you coding with the pigs?
It was sort of like that.
And I am Josh Nereus. I'm a developer evangelist here at ServiceNow. I work on Dave's team. So, yeah, welcome back, Dave. Good to have you back. And it's good to have three people back on the broadcast. It was great, just me and Chuck, but some of the time you need that extra commentary. So I'm excited that we're all back together.
All right. And I'm Dave Slusher. I am also a developer evangelist in the platform business unit at ServiceNow. And no further ado. So the big sweep of what we're going to do, I'm going to work on the Sift API, which is, you can see this thing over at Easily Do. I had actually seen easilydo.com and Sift API, and it took me a little while to realize they were the same thing, that because it's not Sift.com. So that's the thing. I'm going to ultimately, what I want to do in my travel tracker is I want to be able to take something like the itinerary email that would generate from Concur or Orbitz or something like that, have this guy parse it, because I do not want to be in the business of doing that. However, Sift has an extremely hairy API in that you don't just log in, you have to do the signature generation, kind of the way you do with AWS. So I'm working on getting that part working. Before we do that, you guys have some follow-up from last week that you want to get kind of read into the record. So Josh, if you want to take over, and then we'll start with the Sift API after that. Oh, before we do any of that, whoa, I've missed a part. I'm so out of practice.
It's St. Patrick's Day.
It's St. Patrick's Day. Yeah. I didn't even mention what we're drinking. What are you drinking, Chuck?
I have a Blue Moon, Belgian white, classic Blue Moon.
Looks delicious. Blue Moon is always a staple. I've got a Founders Azaka IPA. I think that's how it's pronounced. I can show this one on the screen this week.
And I've got my standard Sweet Josie Brown Ale from Lone Rider Brewing, which I just have not been to the beer store, so this is my last one of these. So, okay, your follow-up from last week. What were your findings?
Yeah, so last week, if you recall, we ran into some issues. We thought we were really close to getting this one token per user thing working with the GitHub API. And at the very end, we were debugging things, and it appeared that it just wasn't working. And I wrote about this in a recap blog post. So if you've read that, you've already heard the story. But basically what happened was near the end, I was prompted to put in a username and password by Google Chrome. And when I hit the API endpoint that we were working with at the time, and I put that username and password in, and then for the rest of the entire session, Chrome cached those credentials. So the issue we ran into is we kept seeing the same user come back every time, making it look like both users we were logged in as were returning the same thing, and it was actually working. It was just we didn't realize we were the same user the whole time. So Chrome caching got us. Things actually worked. For more information,
and at the beginning, we made a joke about the three hardest things that the programmer does was naming variables and cache management. We even said it right up front.
Yeah, we did. And I think historically that quote isn't necessarily talking about browser cache, but I think it's appropriate enough anyway. I think it works.
Close enough. It's got the word cache in it.
Clear your cache, people. It's important, and especially this was just surprising because it was especially nefarious. What was happening was even after logging out and logging in, hitting the API would relog us in as the cached user, and so it kept overriding that ServiceNow session. So weird stuff. Learned something new. I mean, it shouldn't be new to us at this point, but that's live coding happy hour for you. So that's my recap. Yeah, for more information, go back to the community, and there's more details on that recap blog post with some information about what was going on there.
All righty. All right. Thank you, gentlemen. All right. So let me go ahead and start sharing my screen. Right. So this is not. There's going to be. I'm not going to worry too much about making this coherent because this is kind of a messy, sloppy thing, and I'm kind of in a messy, sloppy state in it. So I kind of gave you a little background. What I'm trying to do is get the Sift API hooked up, and so let me actually, before I even do that, let me pull over here, and you guys. Are you guys seeing my screen?
Your screen is coming through, and
I am waiting for it to come up on YouTube.
Turning off my video camera, so it's our icons now.
Okay, excellent. Okay, I see it over there. Let me also, if I can find it in one of the multi-zillion tabs I have. Okay,
it's on YouTube.
Let me find the.
It is a bit on the tiny side. Let me blow that up to full bore. It's readable on full screen.
All right. Let's yeah, I can actually, I'm not sure how to just try. There you go. Principle of least surprise.
Command plus.
Yeah, just Command plus, and that worked. All right. So let me also pull up this right here before we get too far. So this is the Sift email. And so what I want to do right here is their discovery API. Let me blow this one up too. How's that look?
Good.
Okay, so it's kind of obscure, and so what you do, this actually works pretty well. They have Node packages, Ruby packages, et cetera, et cetera. If you used a package, it works great. But what we're doing is not actually using the package, right? And so all these things are kind of built. It's got, and you'll notice, in fact, that one of the kind of frustrating things about Sift is they phrase everything in terms of these. They don't actually even really talk that much about the raw requests, which makes it a little harder to use for what we're trying to do. So they've got these endpoints. You know, they say that there are these common request parameters. You know, you have an API key that you pass it. You have a timestamp that you pass it. A signature. Now the signature is what's making this hairy. So the signature is, and isn't it? Am I right on this, Josh? It's AWS that does this signature request business, right?
Well, so they have a similar thing. I think they're just doing a similar pattern. It's not exactly the same as the AWS signature for, but it's very similar.
But yeah, so here's what you do is you essentially create a string that's the verb, and then you do an and the endpoint you're going to hit, and then you sort all the request parameters in alphabetical order, and this is. You merge both anything that's in the URL line and anything that's in the body JSON. You merge them all together, sort them alphabetically, append them to this thing, you know, one by one. You generate an HMAC SHA-1 signature using your API secret as the key, the string as the data. Then you get basically the hex version of that signature, and you add it as the signature parameter, which I think we showed here a second ago.
That doesn't sound straightforward at all.
Holy guacamole, my friends. Okay, so let me go back over to what I was looking at.
What is the purpose of that thing?
I don't honestly, I don't know. I guess it's to avoid like the session manage. So essentially what it does is it makes this a transactional, completely transactional, right? You've got no state, you've got no session, nothing like that. So the actual request itself basically contains whether or not you really do have the access that you do, right? But it really seems like the hard way to me. But there you go.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's a little test program. And by the way, just as a side note, if you would have told me 20 years ago that I would be using a Mac and I would download a Microsoft tool and use that electively, I would have told you were crazy. But I'm using Microsoft's Visual Studio Code here. And
I love VS Code. Yeah. And not to get too far off the rails here, but I just installed PowerShell on my Mac yesterday too. I'm just throwing that out there. Anyway,
we are truly living in an upside down crazy world. So so this is just a very simple. I actually had been. Let's actually tell you what. I'm going to jump to the end here. Let me put this aside for 1 second. And
by the way, the camera's still, just in case you didn't realize that.
My camera's in the corner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Try to remember to not pick my nose very often. All right. So I'm going to go back to this. Hopefully I returned this back to the state. I'm going to basically do the cooking show thing where I'm going to show you the thing working. Hopefully that will work. So this is a local Node app. And you can see actually, so I passed it just the full, this is actually a real email that I got from Concur. And I passed the whole, I'm just importing the whole thing, passing it in, you know, and Sift does this. It actually broke out my prices. It broke out all this stuff. And so although you see right here, object, et cetera, this is actually, this is just nested JSON. So if we had this, you know, if we have this in here, you can see this kind of recursive data structure that will ultimately get me everything that I want. It will tell me all about the flights, the airports, et cetera, all that exists. Okay. So this works on Node. So I'm attempting to do from my instance the same thing. Now let me back up to, let me actually swap these guys out. I'm back up to doing this over here because it's one of these things where I probably swung for the fences too early in this anyway. And I was trying to take that same email, which is, you know, very large. It's like almost a meg, you know, including all the stuff that would just be in it. Basically the literal thing. If I was getting an inbound email action, that would have been the body that came in, which is ultimately where I want to go with this, right? What I'm doing is I'm just now coming down to the simplest thing that I can see doing anything. So now I'm just using, this is a test string. It will clearly, when Sift tries to parse it, it won't find anything. But what I want to do is kind of verify the signatures and see kind of where that comes down to. And so if I do this, and if I run that, we're going to see, I had just put in, I went into the Node source code and just put in a few log statements so that I can see what's actually happening. So this is, ultimately, this is that thing that we were talking about before. This is, you know, verb, endpoint, API key, email, which is the parameter, you know, the parameter to discover on, timestamp. Oh, I didn't even mention timestamp in Unix epoch time is part of this. And the username, and I'm just using my username. And frankly, it works with no username. I'm only using it with a username because I was worried that the undefined I was getting from the instance JavaScript was causing a problem. So anyway, this is the signature, and then this is this. Don't ignore this for 1 minute. This test HMAC. While I sneeze, or bite a sneeze, and then this is the result, which is actually says that this is the JSON that returned from the Sift API. Okay, everything was fine. It was a correct response. This is the GUID of the response that you sent in. There is no result, and we would expect no result because we just gave it trivial string. Okay. All that is well and good. Now, I've done a lot of the kind of boring work of this. So we're going to kind of go in media res here. And again, let me find my proper. And if you go over here, you can see that I went in, and in order to get that same email, I took the entire text of that thing and converted all the new line. You know, I escaped. I had to find a replace to escape everything. So I can, in fact, get that whole thing, but I don't want to be testing with this giant, you know, wealth of email. So I backed up to just using the email of this is a test string, identical to that, and I pass it to this. Now let me go show you that I've got some of this built in. I've got my attempt at doing this, which is, and some of this, you know, I would parameterize at some other point. What I've got here, you kind of the script, two different script includes. The Sift API utils is basically like the signature generator, the get timestamp, the get keys. It's just kind of the, what you call it, the kind of the drudge work of this. Then you've got the actual API where I'm kind of trying to parse it. I'm, you know, taking a parameter, which is the string I want parsed. You know, I've got the endpoint defined, I've got the method defined, et cetera, et cetera. Then you go through here, and I'm essentially I'm both setting up my REST message. You know, I'm creating a ServiceNow REST message here. And also, how's this? Let me blow this up one. I'm creating a ServiceNow REST message here. You know, doing all the stuff, setting the endpoint, you know, setting the method, setting the endpoint. this here, I'm playing back and forth. You'll see that this is kind of in a state of disrepair. It's been on the lift, and I've been a lot of fiddling. There's been points where I actually forced this to a specific timestamp because I just wanted to see if I was getting the same signature across two things. The API key, which I've created, I'm pulling this out of a system property that I created. I added this trim in here because I noticed it may be how I pasted in. I was actually getting a new line in there. So that when which doesn't off the top of your head seem possible, but I was getting it. So I just added a trim function to get rid of any weird white space that may be preceding or appended to it. So what I'm thinking I should be doing here is getting the identical request that I'm getting from Node. Everything about this is I'm trying to make it identical, right? So I'm giving it the same string, et cetera, over here. And you'll notice that although I'm defining it twice, I'm just passing in, this is a test string. Everything else about it is kind of in these hard-coded parameters right in here. Same username, same everything, same secret, same API key, et cetera. Now, the problem I'm going to have, and let me go ahead and update here because the only thing I changed here is that time. I got rid of my hard-coded timestamp. So we're going to do that. We're going to go ahead and submit it. And what we will see is the same thing I've seen pretty much every time I've tried this, is I've never successfully gotten I've gotten unauthorized bad signature every time I've ever done this. Now you'll notice, let me see how I can do this on screen here. Let me find my Node window, which is
time to compare.
Yeah,
X numbers.
Well, so they're going to be, these two are going to be different because they don't have the same timestamp. So how can I do this?
Have you tried them with the same timestamp?
I have tried, yes.
Okay.
So let's first let's look at a kind of a little higher level just to make sure that like a basic sniff test. And you see like post ampersand v1 discovery and API key. I'm not worried about keeping that a secret because there's no way to do that. Email, this is a test string. Timestamp equals different thing. Username equals different thing. Or, and then, so next step is let's go and see if we give it this literal timestamp here. So this is what I was doing before. Let's force it to this timestamp and let's see, do we get the same signature? The whole, you'll see that both versions have this test HMAC. That was in fact me just seeing is given the same input source, could I guarantee that the two things would return the same signature?
Right.
And you'll see that given like consistent input, I actually do get the same HMAC. So I verified, at the very least, I verified that it is possible to, given my API secret and given a predictable input string, it is possible for me to get the same signature. So wherever this is jumping the rails is somewhere else with that. Yes.
So before going too far, ServiceNow doesn't actually have the ability to do things like HMAC out of the box. So how did you get that that HMAC signature to work?
I took in a subset of CryptoJS and I created I pulled in CryptoJS and just created it as a script include.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, and I also ended up doing the same thing with base 64 just to make sure that I had them. So yeah, so I added my own. I added essentially my own implementation of the HMAC in there, and so you'll see down here where I'm instantiating, or I guess I'm not even instantiating. I'm just calling it. I'm doing CryptoJS.
Got it.
HMAC SHA1. I'm calling it actually out of this CryptoJS script include that I added myself.
Beautiful. Yeah. This is something that comes up a lot is, there might be these really complicated things that you're never going to write your own CryptoJS, but there is something out there for it. So it's cool to see that you're able to bring it in.
Yeah, it was actually, so that was kind of that was the, what should you call it? The verification test of that is my CryptoJS HMAC even working? That's kind of why I was giving it that consistent input. So, okay, so let's go ahead and let's force this guy to that timestamp. So ultimately what we want to see is all the same stuff.
You didn't comment out the second half of that.
Oop, that will be a problem. I guess actually, that would have actually been all right because I think that would have just no opt, right? It would have done it, but it wouldn't have done it.
That's true. It's like, yeah, okay, I ran it, but your result is thrown out the window. Bitbucket.
Let me go ahead and take it, get rid of it just for cleanliness sake. All right. So we're going to come back over here. We're going to rerun this. What we want to see is the same digest at this point as we got in my Node version. So it didn't work, but did we get the same digest?
540.
And you see that in fact,
yeah, looks like it.
We have the same digest.
64B8, 64B8, ends with 527420. Yeah, the test HMAC.
You're looking at the.
I'm looking at the test HMAC.
Yeah, this is the live one. So we won't. Starts with E802 FO.
Ends with 88B39. Yep.
And you'll notice over here.
Yeah, E8B39.
So now this means we have a more interesting problem than I thought we had, which is all this time I have been blaming exactly this. I've been assuming that my signature is bad, and in fact, that's what the API is telling me, is that my signature is bad, and yet it's the identical signature from the thing that is in fact succeeding. So now what this suggests is the signature is right, and I'm probably not passing something correctly, because what I'm giving them from this side, so when I'm doing it from the instance, the parameters that I'm sending in don't match the signature, and yet we know the signature is right. So that says that probably I'm doing something incorrect in my request. So now, and I'm going to need a little help on this one because I frankly forgot how to do this. I think this brings us to our next step. Let me get one more window so that I don't have to lose my background script history.
A handy Istanbul feature is what I smell coming on.
Yes. Exactly.
ATF?
No, not ATF. Nope.
But I have to remember how to turn it on. Outbound HTTP request logging.
Bingo.
I need to make sure. And do you remember how to configure this, Josh?
I do. So there is a default level of request or logging going on. So if you go into outbound HTTP requests and just look at it, you should see.
We look at
the system
messages.
Yeah. So up there at system logs, there's the outbound HTTP request module, and that will get you to the log itself.
Right.
By default,
this is the one that I just sent, and so this is like right now. There's been no configuration. It's log level basic.
Yep.
And it's showing me, where it originated, but it's not showing me request. It's not showing me response. So I need to up the log level of this guy.
So you can do this in two ways. One is, so do you have a REST message configured, or are you just doing a script, a recordless REST message?
I do not have a configured one. I'm doing it by setting up the
okay.
Handcrafted.
Yeah.
Yep. So in that case, you can actually set it right from your REST message object. There is a thing for this is where we'll have to probably go to developer.
Is there a log level method?
There is, and I just don't remember the exact. It's something like
let's see the autocomplete.
Yeah, let's see if that works, because that would do it. And what you want is the one called all set.
Oh.
Is it not in there yet?
No, I'm not seeing it.
Good point.
Bummer.
Mutual auth query parameter.
Well,
how about log?
No, I'm pulling up the developer portal now. So let's look at developer.servicenow.com. I don't think we've mentioned it today, so I will take the opportunity.
There you go.
Take a drink.
Do that.
Let's go to the API docs. I'm doing it over here too. I think you're doing it in the background.
Let's
go look. Yeah, we're in scoped REST message.
Make sure I'm on the right version. Istanbul.
And it's called kind of what you would think it would be. So that makes sense.
It's called what?
Set log.
There is a property as well.
I'm not looking at. I'm looking at some
REST message.
I'm not looking at the. I'm looking at the Helsinki version, which is why I'm not seeing it.
Yep. The property is glide.outbound_HTTP_log.override.
And generally speaking, you probably don't want to set the override, because then that's going to override everything.
Well, it's interesting because it's set to true. This doesn't look like a level thing.
Let's go ahead and set it to all. That's what I'm going to set it to right now. That maybe I could maybe.
You don't document what your choices are for this.
It says.
Basic, elevated, and all.
Elevated and all. I'm going to do all. Yeah. Elevated might be enough, but I'm just going to go ahead and all for right now. So let's update it.
Yeah, and for debugging, all seems pretty reasonable.
We're going to get a lot of stuff. We're going to get junk mail.
All right. Do it. We get the same method. Boop, boop, boop. Execute. Set log level. There's cross scope privilege was just added.
Yep.
All right. Now let's go back to our outbound requests.
I'd
Now let's look
favorite
at
that
this.
thing.
I love this feature so much.
All right.
Okay. So request content length.
Oh, payload logging not supported for unknown content type.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
What does that mean to us uninitiated?
So what's happening here is, from a logging perspective, if you don't set the content type, the system doesn't know how to process it. So if it was binary, as an example, you wouldn't want to try to log the binary. So it's only going to log known content types.
So we need a set parameter at set request header content.
Yeah. Type. And I wonder if that has anything to do with the issue that you're running into, Dave. I don't know.
It could be. Oh, do we want to do application JSON? Do we want to set
probably a content type header?
Set content.
Yeah, that's an accept. I mean, you might want to pass it accept as well, but I would definitely pass it content type is what it was saying in the log.
Request header.
Yeah. And
right,
you
so
know,
where am I
it's not
gonna
a
do
separate
that?
method. There's not a separate method for content type. You would just do a set request header. The header name is content type, and then the value would be your application JSON.
Let's do this.
And I'm not sure why they capitalized application there, but that's just sitting off my accepted. Yeah.
Isn't it content dash type?
Dash type. Yep.
Dash capital T type?
I thought it was lowercase, but
usually I see it as all uppercase. I don't think it actually matters.
Okay,
we'll see if the capital A matters. It matters to me. It just makes me angry.
Let's back this up. Let's try it one more time.
you wouldn't like
Really,
it.
all we certainly expect that it's going to fail. Whoop.
In more ways than one.
SNAM. Oh, you know what I did?
Copy and pasted the wrong thing.
I copied and pasted a little to what I want. This best message. All right. Helps if you adapt your pasted code to the actual variables you have. That will make that work better. Let's rerun it. Let's get our failure. All right, execute, blah, blah, blah. We also got set request header was set in the cross scope privileges. All right, let us see some stuff in here. All that preamble.
Payload logging not supported content type application JSON. It might be the capital A.
I think it is the capital A. I think it doesn't like the capital A.
What have we got to lose?
It doesn't like it. I don't like it.
Josh doesn't like it. It's not going to work.
All right, one more time.
And it's a little known fact that the processing of logs must first goes through my thought process. Anyway. There we go.
All right.
All right. We have content. We have a request. What do we get in the response?
That's the request. Response is we knew. Because we have seen this. So the request, and let's also look at the. Why is it not showing me the actual? Show me the request header. It's not showing me the exact query parameter. Oh, there it is up here. So API key, signature, timestamp. So there's the API key. There's the signature. There's the timestamp.
And it said bad signature?
Email.
That's the same signature as the node one.
It is the same signature. So now, email username.
So I know you're selecting the same timestamp. Is there sensitivity around the age of that timestamp?
Could very well be, but like at this point, so we can go ahead and
you could rerun the one from Node.
Yeah, we can regenerate it.
And that works, even though it's getting older.
New one. Well, so Node generated a new one. Now I'm going to replace my
Node.
hard-coded one.
Okay.
That is actually getting a legitimate new one each time.
Quick.
Yeah. So I'm just gut feel. I'm going to guess that if the timestamp gets too old, I'm going to get something like an expired may not be the same literal error. But so now that's within a few seconds. We're getting the same error.
Thing.
I think what we want to do now is we really want to, I think, maybe drill down into what possibly could be, by inspection, nothing jumps out at either one of you guys as being wrong, right? We've got what seems to be right. We've got DF1147, DF1147. That's the same signature.
Mm-hmm.
That's the same timestamp. Same API key.
The request body is now fully visible.
Right.
Hmm.
So I think maybe the next step is to go into the code over here. And I'm going to actually have this guy spit out the actual, find where it actually does the request. So there's data parameters. Let's see. It's a little bit difficult for me to kind of find down what I want to find is the very last point before it sends. So it's generated the signature. This is where I've been putting in some stuff. This is the generate signature method. So I really request, okay, I think this is it. Data is, I think, the body. And let's just go ahead and console log. Do you know off the top of your head, is it options? If I do options toString in this node, is that going to, what would
I don't
be
think
the?
it's gonna like that. You could do a JSON to stringify. I think that would work.
I was going to say, yeah, if you got an object, you want to stringify it.
Let's do that. And let's just do options. This may turn out to be not exactly what we want, but let's try it. So this should tell us, basically, this form data should be the body. It's just telling me QS is going to be the parameters. So between all this, we should be able to see kind of what that request was.
Mm-hmm.
What I'd really rather see was like the actual literal stuff going over the wire, which I might work to later. All right, so let's do that. Okay.
There we go.
So now we can see we passed an API key, timestamp, signature. We passed in username, email. Form.
JSON is true.
Method is post, URI. So form is that data.
Yep.
Let's go back over to, so this is going to be one. I think I pretty much convinced myself that whenever we find out what the thing is that's different, it is going to be a head thumper because
Probably.
it's one of those things
most of these shows turn out to be.
well, like all the real crazy thing, all the simple things have already been tried and failed, right? So, all right, let's do so this again, and let's look over here. We see that this had a 200 code, and my code over here was, or not even a code, I have a 401 code over here.
Mm-hmm.
So let's look at our request. So we'll go piece by piece. API key equals, and that matches. Signature doesn't match, but I'm gonna let that one slide for right now because this had a new timestamp. I feel a little too lazy to actually change the timestamp in here. We have the timestamp, and those are the three pieces that are the query parameters. And then it passed two things in the form, username and email.
Mm-hmm.
And in both cases, they have the same values. They went down to the same signature. And you know what? Even I changed my mind. Even though I'm very lazy, I'm going to actually change that because I just want to look at the absolute. We're down to like the character by character examination of this. So I want to come back here and just look literally character by character. How could these guys be different? This is what, as much as I like the Sift API, this is really more trouble than I, had bargained for to make a simple API work, right? This is on the extremely high end of what you call it, unfriendliness. All right, so now we're back here. We've got our signatures, and we can see the signatures do in fact match. Timestamps match. The request body pieces match. Username, email, username, email.
I have an idea. What about, can you set up, can you control the endpoint in your node code? And can we set up a request bin? Because that would give us...
Yes, we can absolutely do that. Let's see. Okay, let's do that. That's a good idea.
And for anybody that's not familiar with what request bin is, we've used it on the show a few times before, but it gives us the ability to set up a dummy endpoint and then send stuff to it and look at the results. So it's a very, very useful tool for testing this kind of thing.
All right, so in my node code, but what I want to do, because I don't want to, what I'm going to have to do is find
is
the
there
very
a
last
portion,
point.
like some kind of setup in the Sift API that defines
defining the method, defining the
something?
path, et cetera. Apply consumable to array. This.
Can you do like a command find on just whatever the siftapi.com or whatever that is?
Well, yeah, it creates it. Okay, so actually, the problem being that if I do that, this code is going to do some other stuff in there, because it's going to append the API version, it's going to append the endpoint, et cetera, et cetera. If I do a request bin, if I change this to request bin, this is something I don't. Let's come over here. If I in request bin, if I pass it this, and then there's extra stuff, will the extra stuff be interpreted? So if I do X, Y,
I think it will.
Easy.
I think it will. Or not.
Yeah, that's the problem. Is I need the final endpoint to match up, which means I need to intercept it at the last point before it calls.
I wonder. Yeah, that's going to be an interesting problem then. I'm checking one other thing. I'm checking mockbin, which is a similar service, to see if it behaves the same way. And
if I can pass it a path beyond its thing, that would actually be great. Because then it's generating a signature. Because otherwise, I'm going to have to.
I think mockbin. Yep, mockbin will work. So try mockbin.org.
Mockbin to the rescue. All right.
I like mockbin. They also, it's open source, so you can set up your own mockbin if you want to.
All right, create a bin.
And you should be able to leave everything default, and then just scroll to the bottom and do the create bin button.
Bin. All right, so now what I'm going to...
Basically, you want everything before the view. Yep.
Before view, right. So let's just go ahead and verify. I'm guessing it should tell me, these should somehow be a portion of what we see, right?
Yeah.
So it didn't return anything, but that's okay, because history. And in fact, okay, excellent. All right. So now I'm just going to give this as the top. Get rid of all this. Give this as the endpoint in my node code. And let's see exactly. Let's just. I don't want to have to go find this again. Okay.
And you want the API version thing at the end, just for.
Oh yeah, just for
it matters.
Completeness.
Yeah.
I just want it to match. Okay. All right. Let's save that. Let's try it again. We will get no real response, because we'll just get whatever mockbin sends back. Do the same thing.
I think mockbin is just gonna basically echo, in this case, what you sent it, maybe. Or no, it just
Which
gave
is
you undefined. Yeah. You'll have to refresh this, I think. There it is.
All right, that's the one. That's the post.
Bingo.
Let's look at it. Okay.
API key, timestamp, signature.
So that's all good. Some of these others are probably not. So the content type is form URL encoded. So that's interesting.
Oh.
Oh.
URL encoding.
Uh-huh.
But now here's the deal. Am I implicitly URL encoding? Why should that matter? Why should that matter if it's the body of a post? Because now we know because of the signature, this was not URL encoded prior to signature, right? Or the sig wouldn't match.
You're right. That doesn't make sense if it's in the body.
But in your signature code, it basically, if I remember correctly, the signature is you're appending each of those properties with their values, which is independent of the actual body itself. So the signature is getting built out consistently.
Right.
But it sounds like
yeah. But what it wants is URL encoded. So if I generate the signature as I'm doing, but I come over here and I URL encode the body before I put it in there.
Yep.
So body JSON.
Well, but here's another thing though: is notice that body is not JSON.
Maybe I don't even want to do this. Oh shoot! It's not, is it?
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm guessing. I'm not sure about this, but I'm guessing that your node code is taking that JSON body and then just turning it into.
Oh.
It's not actually sending JSON.
Well, let's do this. So all right. So
the epiphanies start rolling.
There you go.
I've seen light bulbs going on all over the place, like Christmas around here.
All right. So now what we're going to do here
light bulbs.
Is body JSON.
By the way, so I'm checking out our chat. John Roberts is mentioning that you can pass the rest of the URL path as another parameter to request bin.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
All right. So what we're going to do, just get a shout out. It makes me so happy that John Roberts spends his time watching this thing. I love it. Okay. Keys length. So what we want to do here, so I basically just want to do the identical thing. If I just do, is there a set body parameter? Is that?
There is. I think it's set request body, if I remember correctly.
But I want to do the whole thing, the whole string. So what I want to be doing over here is not, I don't want to be doing it one by one. I want to be just creating a string. And again, this is because this is guaranteed to be kind of ugly.
Now, our API of the week last week was Glide URI. I wonder if that would work here. Chuck, do you think that would work here?
What I want to do,
if
body string,
I'm not seeing it,
equals, and this is one where I always fall for this. If I do a plus equal, body string plus equals, that does not morph body string, right? That's a JavaScripty thing I think that always gets me.
You change the
plus
type?
equals should work.
Plus equal, all right.
Yeah, plus equals should work.
Yeah, that's just a concatenation.
All right.
We'll find out.
I'm trusting you guys. All right. What do we have? Let me go back to mockbin. URL encode. So it's both not JSON. It's a string equals, there's no spaces, and then it's URL encoded.
Yep.
So that's, okay, so params key. So this should be, let's go ahead and GS debug body string. And then we don't want to stringify this. We just want to pass in, we want to actually also, so what is it? You're saying GS dot URI URL encode body string?
That should do it, I would think.
Again, I'm not even apologizing for the...
You just want to see the variable.
Ugliness of... Spent 0 seconds thinking through this.
We do have something fugly going on line 35. What is it? We got a big red X.
Oh, I'll get that in a second.
Oh, we got a parenthesis. A closed with no open.
Coded.
Key.
Boy, if this is it, so this works. This is going to be a big weight off my mind. Where are we? Oh, yeah. These. I'm just going to let those. That shouldn't be. Oh, whatever. Okay.
Hello, this is
We're going to let that.
Chuck has a phone call.
Yes. What can I do for you? I'm doing
We
great.
can still hear you, Chuck. Chuck is not muted. All right, let's run this. See what we see. Boop. That
Email
didn't work
equals undefined. Username equals undefined.
right. All right.
But that sounds like an easy thing to fix.
Key. Because I'm.
Oh, indexing the wrong.
I mean, yes. For one thing, I'm not looking at the right thing. That's wrong. But also, the keys are email user. Oh no, that's because I'm just looking in the thing that doesn't contain them.
Got it.
Let's do it both before. I also want to do this after encoding, just for my own sanity, because that's kind of where we're at here. Is a certain amount of once you get to one of these things where you look at it and you've been over it and over it, and you can't quite see what's going wrong. That's essentially you're backing up the first principles. Like, all right, what can I make a definitive statement of what's working, right? This is kind of all right. Now let's see.
So
Email.
we gotta
right.
encode the
I
values.
can't encode them one by one. Oh, this is just so fugly.
But it's not too bad because you can just do just move the GS.
Code there.
Get rid of the other one.
Get rid of this. So now I don't even need that. That's not even a thing. Now are we down to the literal byte by byte? What would really be amazing is if somewhere in the middle of this, we actually just got the 200 requests back to the API. Oop.
Email uncoded body string. Okay.
Coded body string. Oh, because I'm still
Logging something that's not there anymore. Aha.
I'm setting the wrong body. All right. Whew.
Bit by bit.
Bit by bit. All right. It's how you eat an elephant. Email equals string. And we have one problem in our append here. This
so you're gonna have to do.
I hate this kind of stuff so much. We want to append, but only if it's not the last thing, or we want to do this only if it's not the first thing.
Easier way to do that would maybe be to create a pairs array and then just push to the array, and then when you're done, join on a ampersand.
Okay. Right. So pairs. Same piece.
Like do pairs.push, because you can just.
Okay.
Because you just want an array, so you'll have to initialize an empty array before your for loop there.
But I want an array of string. I want to push. Okay, here's where I want to push this string.
That whole thing. Yeah.
I want to push this string. Then when I'm done, where did that go?
I think there's you need a extra parens at the end.
Okay. Body string equals pairs.join 1%.
Yep.
All right.
And you still have to define pairs.
Oh. Whoop. Good catch. All right. All right.
Somewhere there's a bad joke about pair programming.
All right. Good enough. It's actually in a weird place, but I'll leave it for now because just want to get this thing wiggling. All right. And that's kind of Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. You're good.
I was gonna say this still we really are down to the point where I'm really truly saying that I think that this is an indicator that this is just way too much work to have to use your API.
So it's weird because I think, and not to get too far off, but I think there are a lot more APIs that are doing this kind of thing, which is challenging. I think it's also why SDKs are very popular, but I definitely understand the reasons for it. It makes them a lot more secure, but certainly not easy.
Just one more time, I just want to generate I want to take the timestamp off the table because I want to set this to a new timestamp just to make sure that it's a relatively current timestamp. And we're still getting the 401 error though.
What we might want to do now is look at that, go back and look at that outbound log and see.
Let's do this and okay. Everything's the same. We'll go back. We'll look at the most current one. Email. And let's come down to.
This is a test string.
I want to get this and mock bin at the same time. Pull this out. Refresh this. Get the most recent mock bin. See, can I find my? I've got so many. Start getting rid of Windows. All right. So I would think this couldn't be down to order dependence, could it?
Go back to your mock bin. Notice they're not pluses, they're %20s. I wonder
could that really be that much of a?
I mean, I understand that the %20 is the. I don't know. That's really interesting. Is the URL encoding the issue?
Do we have that? God, if it is, it's really a big problem.
Well, you could do a really hacky thing, which is you could do
Let's just replace spaces with plus with %20 for right now.
Yeah, and there might be a more elegant way to do this. There's probably an API or something in ServiceNow, but it's at least worthy of testing.
Yeah, we just want to see. Rather than, but except I'm gonna. Let's look quickly at the code and see if I have any parameters that I can give that.
Yeah, because we're doing
URL encode string to be encoded.
No extra parameters we can pass in. Oh, it says it uses % encoding.
But not for the spaces. Here's what I'm going to do.
Do something without spaces?
I can do that. Yes, let's do that. I'm willing to...
and that way we at least isolate.
Let's just take this off the take that off the table. So I'm going to come over here. We'll just do the same string minus spaces. Hackety hack. All right. We're down into the ridiculous, but we're just trying to, again, see this work. All right. So let's go execute node. Generate all the stuff. Let's even go ahead and update the timestamp. Before we do that, just for completeness sake, now let's go execute that over here.
I didn't say anything.
Still unauthorized.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're next to the headphones. I'm sorry. There's something going on my headphones. Sorry.
All right.
Let me see if I can
Yeah.
meet Chuck here.
This is
Uh,
a test.
So the estimate was for work currently done or work you're planning to do?
Yeah, so of this list, and I'm sorry, I wish I was here talking to you directly, it'd be easier to explain, but so I made an estimate of some tests that I wanted
uh-oh. Still there, Dave?
I'm back.
Something's a little weird here. Something's not sharing. I'm trying to end the Chuck call.
Actually, it actually hung up on me a second ago. So,
Okay, there we go.
all right. Am I sharing again?
You are sharing.
Okay, so let's go back. So now here's our outbound, and I want to get also our mock bin. We want our most recent mock bin. And this is the one. Username equals, this is a test string. I really wonder, post data, MIME type. I wonder if it's down into things like the MIME type. I noticed that if I go over to R, it's in a different order. That shouldn't.
You know what? I think it actually is potentially.
But they make you canonicalize it, right?
Right. Yeah, they do. They do.
You know what? As much as I hate it,
Just
as much as I hate this, I'm going to do. Let's get rid of all this. We're just going to we're going to do this in a specific. We're not going to do this loop. We're going to do. Let's comment this out. This out. This out. Let's do. So we want username first, right?
Okay.
Yeah. We want the username first.
Gotcha.
I do this every time. I always hit the thing twice.
Yeah. Okay.
Username. And let's see. I think I've got one.
Yep. Agreed.
Where what have I done?
Let's see. We've got some comments. It's also wrong. Escaping spaces are plus your own code. Yeah. I just John was commenting on the plus versus the %20. That definitely would change the hash check.
Gotcha.
Jason.
This is very similar to the experience I had when I was working with a lot of the Amazon stuff, where you were just fiddling with it and fiddling with it and fiddling with it, and then the first time it went through, it was like, holy wow, this worked. And it felt simultaneously great and horrible that you spent that much time, but also that it was finally working.
Yeah, it's been less than 3 weeks.
And a little
What?
bit of emergency vet hour.
Get the lab results back.
I'm sorry. What was that, Josh?
I said, unfortunately, we're getting a little bit of a live coding emergency vet hour. Chuck is had an emergency call, so we're trying to get in contact with him here.
Some of that here, and I'd have those by the time you picked them up. But the culture part, that's where we send the urine.
All right. I'm doing something wrong around this.
I wouldn't have that for 5 to 7 days.
Let's do that.
Because the lab work I could do.
Unclosed string. Why is it telling me unclosed string? Is my string not? Oh, here's why.
Hang on a
No.
second. Let me see if I can debrief my wife real quick.
Okay. All right. Email equals. Email. As ugly as this is. Now, let's actually do the other thing where. No, we took out. That's right. We took out the spaces. Now we're just putting them. We're just forcing them to the same order.
Now we could be getting to a point, and this is I don't know if, depending on what your next test here does, where the timestamp could be an issue.
Yeah, that's why I'm regenerating a new timestamp.
Okay. Well, but even with a new timestamp, like I wonder how sensitive it is, and
how sensitive. I'm not following.
Well, so in other words, so you're assigning this based on the timestamp. When Sift gets the request, they're gonna see that timestamp relative to when the request came in, and so some APIs will have like a skew type setting where you can say like, hey, this is valid if it's within 5 seconds or 60 seconds. But I just wonder if, because the second you generate that, it's immediately an old timestamp. So I don't know if that's what's going on here or not, but it could explain why it's working on.
Okay, so I've had a problem there because I was getting the plus equal left over. Had some stray characters in there when I was converting that, so let's go back to this. That is clearly not right.
So username, there's no
and I don't have
now.
the equals. Yeah, I made a hash of that again. All right, username.
Oh, equals. And that's why, yeah, that makes sense.
Equals. All right, that's where. All right, I'm gonna go ahead just one more time just to get a more current timestamp. Hopefully, it's not so sensitive that it's gonna be 10 seconds. I mean, it's got to be within the parameters of normal clock drift, right? It can't just reject everything that's more than 10 seconds apart. Right, username equals Dave/ServiceNow, email equals this is the test string. All right. We're getting to the point where we're kind of going to have to admit defeat on this one. Username equals. Let's go back over to the mock bin. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, so one more thing we could do is just from a comparison standpoint, I know we're sending requests from Node to mock bin, but also set up a mock bin for ServiceNow, so we can do a line by line.
Okay, let's do that.
And then at that point, if there's no difference, then the only thing left, I think,
it's the header. The headers is one of the few things.
Well, and we can even compare the headers.
Like what if it's?
Yeah, I mean there could be something there. We can compare the headers with mockbin. We can see exactly what those are, and then outside of that, it does kind of seem a little extreme that it would be the timestamp, but that would be the only thing left that's varying from request to request if these do indeed match.
I'm gonna come down here, and where am I setting the host? Rest message.
I think it was up near the top there, because you. Oh, I see. Gotcha.
Just gonna do that there.
Cool.
Ugh, this has gotten so horrible. There's so much tactical hack in here that it's driving me crazy. All right. So now I don't care about the timestamp because we're not even hitting the actual.
Yeah. Right.
API. Oops. Empty JSON string.
52.
Line 52. Oh, that's not actually a problem because
it's just trying to parse something.
It's trying to parse something that it, I don't even care because we're just gonna go over here. We're just gonna look at the mock bins. We don't even care what that did. All right.
Got our new mock bin. You'll have to hit the view history button.
Okay.
So username equals and email equals, so that looks the same.
All right. Let's see what we can do about this.
And then all the request details themselves are going to show up in that. Basically, it's all just represented as a JSON body in the left-hand side there, so you'll be able to scroll down and see all the headers, etc. that came through.
Let's find the actual URL string. Let's look at the two URL strings. Bin, blah, 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 blah. We don't care about all that. But then once you get down to discovery, API key equals all this stuff, signature equals.
I don't know if this matters, but there's an extra slash.
I think that's just how I put the
Just because the
endpoint in
request
two
bin.
things.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I have the slash in one and not the other.
Got it. That makes
And
sense.
they're in different orders. Should that matter? Oh, if it does, again, it's gonna make me so angry.
And I don't even know. We might have issues controlling that.
These are, in fact, the signature. I mean, we would have to assemble it piece by
hand
piece, right?
instead of
The same way we did the other thing. So signature, like everything about this,
that part
is the same, other than the order,
same.
right?
Okay.
Other than now we're down into HTTP versions, cookies, accept encoding,
yeah.
X forwarded for, different. Clearly, it's coming from different.
CF visitor. So, content type. Content type. Because it's not application JSON. We're still setting application JSON from.
All right, let's try that.
Yeah.
Let's try that.
And then also,
Sure.
I noticed that it looks like there's an accept header, and I don't know if.
Let's get back to our mock bins. Accept
There's
header.
no accept header on the ServiceNow side.
Let's go ahead and set it just to,
Yeah.
like we really are down in the weeds of just. And I actually just want this to be accept application JSON, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Is that correct? All right. Are we going to? So is there any point in mock bidding this, or we want to actually hit the real thing?
I think it's the real thing.
Let's hit the real
'Cause at this
thing, and then
point-
that's our last. Yeah. Real
Yeah.
thing. We will. It will probably not work, but we've kind of taken it as far as we can. This one. Let's update it. This is one of these ones where, like, the majority of what I'm after here is just verifying that I'm not completely crazy. This actually is problematic.
No.
All right.
If you
Open
are
the script.
crazy, it means there are 3 crazy people.
Holy!
Oh.
I
Take a
said
drink.
a word. I try to
Take a
keep it.
drink.
I try to keep it clean in here. All right, gentlemen, we are going to really, really, really swing for the fences here.
He's going to uncomment that part.
Uncomment that part. We are going to actually send in my giant concur email right now. This may or may not work. This may be awfully ambitious.
Drum roll, please.
Oh.
Result is empty,
But it's
Result
okay.
but it's
Empty.
okay.
I think this actually may be okay. We're going to do one more thing. Sorry. What we're going to do?
Just one more
I
thing.
think we
We're
may
rolling
have. Oh yeah, we got rid of all this. So, let's do this. Oop! I think I hit it twice.
No, we never did. We never did address the space encoding thing. I don't know if that matters or not.
Yeah, we had so many. Now what we have to do is back up and see. So given that we've got the working version now, it's a question of which of those hacks contributed to it, and so we can kind of see, was it the, is the ordering matter or does not matter? So now we kind of unwind the various things that we've done to get it to this point and see which ones, which ones are relevant, which ones aren't. I'm sure we did a lot of red herring stuff just now, right? Oh no. All right, here we go. I actually had cut and pasted that just in case. Nothing sucks worse than having a big hairy scripts background and then you lose it out of your.
Oh yeah.
It's almost like a second. It's completely instinctual now. It's like hitting Command Save in Microsoft Word, I just copy paste.
Yeah, I do too. Right before I
time.
hit that go, I hit Command C. Select all, Command C, then run.
Yes, indeed. So,
All right, so
we've
go
got
ahead and go.
Like,
What
there
we
was
wanna
an
do is
older
just-
version where the back button didn't bring you back to the code. It brought you back to an empty screen. It's just like back in Calgary days or something.
All right.
And
step
what did we
over
find?
this.
I actually
Whole
want
bunch
to-
of stuff.
All right, so I want to just get down here and I want to be able to inspect the body object that came back. And see, was it actually legitimately empty? Or, you know what? Let's get rid of this breakpoint. All right. So I want to see the body.
Body string. Okay.
It is legitimately empty. My
Interesting.
result. So everything is okay, but my result is empty. That. Okay. Well, that's not the hill we're going to climb right now. So we've got. And we may have to kind of unwind again, like back up and see of all the various stuff that we've done. What is relevant or not relevant? But we did actually get it to where this guy will. See, this might be. I said we're not going to do any more. Should we do one more thing, which is fixing the timestamp?
Let's try it. Let's try it.
We
also
so,
have a.
It feels so close.
We also have a comment from YouTube about the timestamp that says you can get the Unix epoch by doing math.round new date divided by 1,000. I'm just gonna paste this
I
into
thought that's what he was doing.
chat.
This is what
Oh,
I'm
that's
doing.
exactly it. Okay.
Oh, no, he was doing new date. This is date.now.
Oh,
Subtle
Huh.
difference.
interesting.
All right. So we're going to just do it with the timestamp. I don't actually think that that's going to be relevant.
Thing, but maybe it'll at least
Right.
if it works, then it's at least showing that we got one more piece.
I'm going to go ahead and close my script debugger. This is legitimately the very last thing we're going to do because we are. All right, let's back up and hit this one more time. And then, so now this is, even though it's not like we run this and it's empty, it's actually a much better problem, right?
Oh, absolutely. So it means that the signature is working. I mean, that really is the nasty, weird, messy part. So that's good news.
Right. Now the question is, why is my result is empty, and given the same input over in my node, I actually did get a result. I did get a parsed. And this is all. I've actually got this all messed up at this point because I've got the mock bin and etc. But so that's an interesting place to kind of tackle from there. So I'm gonna go ahead and de-share my screen.
Guess I'll turn my camera back on over here after that's done.
That's good coding, my friends.
Good coding indeed. Still missing.
So that was so. Yeah, so I'm trying to think how much time I put. So I didn't put a huge amount of time. Probably maybe between 1 and 3 hours. In last month, just fiddling with this a little tiny bit. So I don't have a wealth of experience. This is what we did today is probably equals what I have done or is similar order of magnitude. So we actually got it from just this weird, I don't have any idea what's happening, to we know the API is working correctly. We just don't know what's in there. And there are in that Sift API, there are ways, for example, given that GUID of the thing, you can go back and inspect it. So if we've got the signature, working, now I just need to wrap that up in a little bow, and then I can do arbitrary requests without, not just discovery, but anything. So, this is, then I can go and say, okay, pull down what you got. And did you legitimately not parse anything out of that? And if so, why? And so that's kind of the next thing to figure out. But that request signing was troublesome. So I really have two bits of takeaway. One is, again, like I said, unwind all the various experiments we tried, because we have about a dozen knobs we turned here. And which was the one that was ultimately responsible? Is it ordering dependent or not? Is it sensitive to the URL encoding or not. All these various little things. And so I'm going to get a definitive list of that and figure out exactly exactly how close was I the original time. So
makes sense.
We do that, figure out why my request is empty, or why my parse is empty. Those are the kind of the carries. I'm sorry, Josh, I cut you off.
No, I was just gonna say, yeah, it seems probably like it's that encoding stuff, because it's that whole email body was already base64 encoded, and we never quite figured out what was going on with that. So that's my bet. That's what I think is going on.
Right. When the key thing was just changing the content type to URL encoded form as opposed to JSON, then boom, it worked. So that, again, that's not a thing I would have predicted, that it was the header that was making it, even though the header is like not part of the signature, the header made it interpreted the wrong way so that it was giving a bad signature error. So that seems kind of like an obscure error for what's actually happening, but
yeah, it seems like potentially suspect API design from an error standpoint. That doesn't seem.
Yeah, I think
helpful.
what we're actually seeing is, I think it's one of these things where like the result is kind of leaking design or execution detail, implementation details of this.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because I think what's happening is somewhere in there, it's interpreting that data that I sent in terms of the content type that I sent it, and then it's doing its signature validation, right? So it's taking all the stuff, it's saying, okay, if I gave it the content type of application JSON, or I actually gave it the JSON, that's what it's using, and that makes the signature not match what it's looking for. So there you go. That was
good.
This is the most exhausted I've ever been after 75 minutes of coding this. That is some hairy stuff. I mean, I think I even said it in the tweet that I sent out right before, is that this is hairy stuff. So
hairy indeed.
This could actually, and ultimately, the nice thing about this is, having kind of cracked that, is this is one of the more universally useful things that we've done, because if you're just trying to implement Sift API, you don't have to be doing it in ServiceNow. Like, just figuring out the nuts and bolts of what you push over the wire would be usable for anybody who wants to use it outside of those packages. So you're not using a Java library or Node. You've got to craft your own request. So anyone in that situation would have to do all the stuff we're doing. Now, that's probably the minority of people, because probably most people would be using, either using Python or PHP or something where they could pull in a package. So
yeah, they've handled all the gnarly bits for you. So
there you go, gentlemen. All right,
cool.
Thank you so much. I'm just personally, this is like the most relieved I've ever been to see something wiggle. I'm glad we didn't give up 3 minutes before we actually got. That's the temptation, right? You don't want to make it take 3 hours, but sometimes we're so close. It feels like we're close, and you just don't want to stop on a failure when you feel like you're so close to victory. Which is, by the way,
push through.
Yeah, it's also how your coding sessions go, right? This is how we end up not eating lunches and realizing how badly we have to pee because we
pets
thought
don't get fed. Yeah, the whole thing.
Yeah, that's why last.
Oh, go ahead.
That's why last week after we had our challenges with our OAuth thing, I think I was working on that till I think I posted that blog post at 9 p.m. I just was like, I need to figure this thing out. I'm not letting it go.
All right. Okay. So ratings, I think I don't remember what probably 3.5, 3.25, something like that. Not wonderful, not terrible.
Dave, your camera's off, and also I think I'm at probably a 3.75. It's not quite a 4. It's better than a 3.5. Not my favorite IPA in the entire world.
I'll give the Blue Moon a solid 4. It's a good go-to beer.
Wow.
Never fails.
Chuck is in a generous mood today.
That is generous.
It's the only thing keeping my attitude afloat right now is alcohol.
I think that represents, that's a shared sentiment.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen. And we'll figure out what we're doing next week and post that. Thanks, everybody who came to the stream and who looks at this later. And happy coding. Happy weekend.
See you at CreatorCon.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Happy everything.
Happy K17. All right.
All right. See y'all.
Bye.